very interesting weekend out at Jonesboro. Some very impressive performance at the top, and then some players were struggling out there. Now, this is back-to-back weeks that I think we've come into courses that have previously played extremely well for the tour, and for different reasons, but I think the same root reason. Mm-hmm. I think the field seems to have outgrown. I think, in my opinion, I think the field has somewhat outgrown this course, and I think the field has somewhat outgrown W.R. Jackson.
I'm really glad you said that, because
of last week.
You were being kind of cagey last night, and I was like, Hunter is totally going to take the other side. He's an entertainer. We're going to get into a fight tomorrow.
Oh, my wind.
Well, then I texted you about it, and you kind of just like, yeah, it's an interesting train of thought. And I was like, oh, no. So I came in here fully prepared to be like extra civil, because I was like, I need to make sure I don't get Hunter like ready to counterattack me.
I brought up, I pulled up my Twitter because the commentary team was very defensive on this course.
I've organized points.
The commentary team was very defensive on this course because the course played soft. I mean,
I've organized
opening. We saw 17 under, but we saw like the leaders were able to shoot like, what was it, back-to-back 13 unders? I believe. I think both Eagle and Calvin went 13-13. The previous course record was 14. James Conrad went 17. The course was getting shredded.
People were torching it.
Why was the course getting shredded? The wind was down. And so
nobody denied that.
Yeah, the course was getting shredded because the wind.
The commentators were denying that either. They were, I mean, literally the first thing that got me, I had already kind of developed this opinion of like, man, I think the wind is the only course. Because let me start with this. That course is gorgeous. It looks fantastic. And that property is not outgrown. You can do things to that property. It's fantastic. And I think Jonesboro has some of the best holes on tour. And then there's just some in between, like 320-foot hyzers that it's like, what are we doing? I think for the FP it was 270. And with like no trouble. And so that is not the problem. And also, we judge these courses not on the public playing them, because I would love to play that course. It looks fantastic. It looks like a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. We have to judge it at the highest level, because the commentary made a comment that got me like stirred up what was already kind of inside of me a little bit. And Doss basically said, or Sexton, kind of all of them were hopping on the same train, being like, he said, for those of you who said the course was too soft days 1 and 2, I forgive you, because clearly it's not. And then Doss goes, I think it was Doss was like, he's like, yeah, you can't be judging the course based on perfect conditions and the best in the world playing it. And I was like, then what the heck
Isn't
are we judging on?
For?
I literally said, I tweeted, I was like, are we supposed to be judging courses on how they play in bad conditions? Yeah. And also, certainly we have to judge them on how the best in the world play them, because guess where the tour is?
Yeah, that's what you're designing them for.
Yeah, that's the point. And so then I tweeted that.
I would say that definitely seems like a very silly argument in favor of the course.
Main counter argument. There's a few things to this, and the main counter argument that everybody was kind of bringing up that didn't agree was, listen, it is literally windy there 90% of the time. Like, this almost never happens where this course is played in no wind. Okay. Like, you have to design, they said you have to design a course that can be fun and entertaining, both with the wind and without. And my counterpoint to that is, so their point is, yes, the wind can be the only defense of a course, because if it's windy 90% of the time, how can you design a course that, like, they were being very extreme. They were like, if you design this course to play tough with no wind, then with the wind, they would shoot plus 20. And I'm like, okay, guys, let's all calm down. Mm-hmm. So here's my counterpoints to that. Number one counterpoint. One of the things in disc golf that we talk about all the time is eliminating how many unpredictable variables are in the game.
Yeah.
We talk about this with baskets a lot, like changing of baskets. Why would we not eliminate that?
Baskets sucked this weekend.
Right. Oh, they were bad. One of the most unpredictable variables that we talk about in dislike is morning to afternoon tee times differences in wind. If your course's only defense is wind, you amplify that. You amplify that big time. You're taking that effect that people already all don't like, and the players especially, and you amplify that. Number two, this is the biggest one. This is the main point here, is people's idea of what scoring separation is misconstrued. And also people's idea of what disc golf needs to have, like, people shooting is different than what I would think. Because people's idea is that, scoring separation comes from people making, like, they were like, oh, well, some of the best players were only shooting a few under. But if you look at their scorecard, like, I think Eagle took like 2 holes where he was over par. And most of what windy disc golf actually promotes when there's no OB is drives that aren't that great, chip layups, and tap outs for par, or drives to like 40 footers, can't run it because it's windy, layups and par. That is not scoring separation. Scoring separation comes from more trouble, a lot of times in the form of OB, to where guys can take birdies and then just as easily can make one little mistake and take a bogey or a double. You got to have a range of scores that people can take. I saw a lot on the top end of the field that we should be catering to. I saw a lot of just par birdie play out there. And then the other thing is, disc golf is, because it's always been this way, is very hooked on the idea that the hot round should be coming in. If it's not double digits, it's almost absurd to them. Like, that is exciting disc golf to them is a ton of birdies, which I would argue that exciting disc golf doesn't have to be guys shooting 16 under par, because what happens is if you have a difficult course where birdies are harder to come by, the birdies themselves become more exciting. Pars become good. It's all relative. So like the hot round coming in, like let's say you design a course where no wind, guys shoot, let's just say like hot rounds coming in at 10 under, nothing crazy. Whereas with wind, guys are coming in at 2 under. In my mind, that's not an issue. That 2 under round was still a great round that day. Mm-hmm. So those are my main points for that. I think the wind being the only defense has too many flaws, and I think it can be done in a way that caters both ways. Hunter?
Yeah, I mean, so I quote tweeted Trevor, and I didn't put my opinion in there. I just asked people, like, what do you think? Should weather be one of the things? And, you know, I had several pros responding, one of them being Zach Melton saying it's always windy in Jonesboro. We never get to play it in conditions from day 1 and 2. I think it's a fair point for this tournament. And I think that when you're designing a course in Emporia, Kansas, when you're designing a course at Jonesboro, wind should be a factor in your mind, but it shouldn't be like in this case. A lot of the holes, if it's not windy, it's birdie or die course. A lot of the holes, it's not a birdie or die course as a whole. But I mean, when you have guys go 13-13 to lead the tournament, you have a player shooting 17 under, then the wind picks up the final day. And it's not like the scores just disappeared and now it's the hardest course on tour. You still had multiple guys shooting 8, 9, 7 under. We had Ben Callaway, Trayvon Crowe, both shoot 9 under. Isaac Robinson, Ezra Aderhole, both shoot 8.
It was still scoreable.
Andrew Presnell, Thomas Gilbert, Adrian Chevalier, I don't even know who he is, 7 under. You had guys still shooting 7, 8, 9 under out there, and Ben Callaway's 9 under with 2 bogeys. So double digits is still attainable out there in crazy wind. So it's not like this course all of a sudden gets crazy hard. You just had the top guys who were leading the tournament struggled a little bit the final day. But I think that how you do it is like, yes, you factor wind in the back of your mind. You don't make a course, if it's a place like Jonesboro where it's always windy, you don't make a course at perfect conditions shooting 2 under is the hot round.
No.
Obviously not. Because then, wind picks up, you're going to have 5 over and bogey.
We're just saying it's a little out of balance.
But you can't, I don't think
it's as simple as like, hey, next year, let's take a couple holes and add a little more OB and see what it does.
That's the thing.
It's so easy.
That's why I was saying W.R. Jackson and this course, I think were exposed back-to-back weekends for slightly different reasons. This course was exposed because less wind. W.R. Jackson was just exposed because, gosh darn, this field's good. But both of them were, I think, the similar root problem. Not enough OB. Yeah. When you have courses like this, you can get creative. You can push holes longer, stuff like that. But what really separates, especially the top end of the field, is like this course, you saw it on hole 18 was one of the best examples, right? Eagle McMahon tried to go up over, and he ended in the right rough. OB ends up taking a 7, right? That isn't happening 95% of the time on this course. A lot of times, if you're in the rough, it's like, okay, that kind of sucks a little bit, but you can still scramble. Or there were some times where you could be like, almost a fairway over, and you're just, okay, you got a little tall grass to deal with. But if there's a lot of OB, then those mistakes, which they are mistakes, that's the key. It's not like these guys are throwing perfect shots and I'm saying they need to be OB. Mistakes are now punished to where if you throw a good drive, you have an easy up and down, you take your birdie. You mess up, you're now OB, you have to have not a stress-free par. You're thinking about a bogey. So these swings happen a lot more, and it helps the top of the field rise to the occasion, and it helps the players who are really hot that weekend finish and win, and it also helps there be a lot more exciting golf down the stretch. Because what could have happened, this tournament was exciting down the stretch. What easily could have happened is down the stretch, I think what this course's redeeming grace is hole 14, 16, 17, and 18. I think I have those holes right.
Luckily, it has some really good finishes.
They're all tough down the stretch.
Yeah.
If you have those holes anywhere else on the course and you copy and paste some of the other holes towards the end, you could have the most boring finish of all time.
Yeah.
And the thing that really helps this course is when the wind kicks up, but you can't just rely on the wind, which I think this course relies too much on the wind is what it all is.
I think that, like, let me give a good example. Hole 10. Hole 10 is a tough par 3. Every single player on lead card for MPO turned theirs over into the woods short right of the basket. And all the commentary teams started freaking out about how they were all in trouble. And then you got to them, and it was an easy pitch up out of the woods, and they all took par. Like, it wasn't a big deal at all. That's an area, okay, players consistently miss here. Let's make this an out-of-bounds staked area. It'll make the hole more interesting, more difficult. And it's not like it's going to delay anybody because we're not playing stroke and distance.
It's actually make it faster.
Yeah, it'll actually make it faster. It'll take less time thinking about how they're going to have to scramble out of the woods. So, like, that's the type of thing that I want to... And, like, I understand, like, people get passionate because people love this course. And I think it's a phenomenal course. It just needs a few tweaks because, like, I mean, we started tweeting about it and people were like, I'd like to see you go out there and play it and see if you say it's soft. You know that's not what I'm talking about. Like, come on now.
That was
like,
the other thing is there's multiple times that they were talking about the course average every day. Like, you know, this course is rated, 98th in the top 100 or something like that. And they were saying, well, probably day to day there's a lot more tall grass and blah, blah, blah. Whenever I talk about a course, I'm talking about the tour rolls in.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I could probably play there and think it's my favorite course ever.
Well, I don't care if the course that if I go to Jonesboro and I play it and the ropes aren't up because it's not a tour weekend, who gives a rip? I don't care if I play with OB or not. You go to Winthrop Gold, you can play the lake course.
Yeah.
Rope's not up. Way easier course. But when the tour comes into town, the teeth got to come out.
Yeah.
And you can't be like, oh, hey, can we push the tour back a week? It's only going to be 5 mile an hour. This course is going to get shredded this week. That doesn't work. You gotta build the course for the tour.
When I used to work I worked at a golf course in high school that was like the #1 public course, or was a semi-private in Pennsylvania. Like, it was a very nice course, and so they were able to hold a pretty good pro event at one year. It wasn't like a PGA Tour, but it was a pretty good pro event. And what they did for that event specifically, and this happens a lot on the pro tour, I'm not saying it doesn't, was they didn't cut the long grass. They let it grow. They actually brought the fairways in a little bit, and they made like new tees. They brought tees back. They put in some new tees. Like, they made the pins harder. Like, there are just a lot of courses we're finding out that you can't judge on your day-to-day Joe Schmoes. Like, when the tour, and there's a 1-year adjustment period. Like, this happened this year. All right, let's make it. We don't expect them to get it right every time because, like, when the tour rolls into town.
Oh no, last year this course played 26 under, won it. This year,
well, it was windy all year last year.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying,
but, like,
you can't. The course doesn't get exposed until the wind's down.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So, like, they've learned now. I'd like to see a few tweaks, and it doesn't have to be dramatic. This course, we are not calling for this course to be eradicated from tour because I think this property looks as good as any of them on tour. Like, it looks really nice. It looks very nicely manicured, and I like the course overall.
And the coverage seemed like the coverage as far as cell coverage seemed to be great out there.
So all I want to see is just a little bit more OB, maybe change a few pins and tees, and then we'd be fine.
All right.
People were just getting they were getting worked up about that.
So there you have it. Trevor hates the course, and he thinks that everyone's hard work at Jonesboro is for nothing. Let's go into Trevor's trivia.
That is my
fan favorite segment.
Thank goodness you agree with me, man. It's good for Hunter to be back. I was expected for Hunter to get back from vacation, and him and I just scratch at each other the first time back.
If I had known that, I mean, I could have come up with the win take.
I know. Well, that's why my original plan was to go into it and, like, I'm just going to present my facts. You can counter, and I'm not going to get worked up because I thought you were doing that because you've done that before. And you're going to do one of those things. I was going to be like, I was going to start being like, Hunter, I know after this is done, you're going to, like, say you agree with me. And you'd be like, no, I'm not. And then afterwards, you would have done it anyways. And I would have like tackled you anyways.
No, I can't throw my reputation out the window over wind.
Thank goodness, dude. I mean, it was a dogfight on Twitter last night. Brody tweeted something about it.
That was the other thing.
It's like, oh, how did you shoot on that course yesterday? And I was like, all right, guys.
I didn't even put my take on Twitter, so I didn't even get in a dogfight.
I
wasn't worked up about this take at all.
I threw it out there, and then, well, the best one was I tweeted, like Brody said, they're doubling down on it, and I tweeted, like, jokingly, like, yeah, they're really coming after me right now. Like, not alluding that they were literally reading my tweets.
Yeah.
And then somebody replied and said, what kind of person do you have to be to, like, or what kind of, like, entitled person or something do you have to be to think that they're actually looking at your tweets? I'm like, come on, guys.
I was like the other day.
Like, I'm not doing that.